intention to always tell the truth from that podium, and will you pledge never to knowingly say something that is not factual?
It is. It's an honor to do this, and yes, I believe that we have to be honest with the American people. I think sometimes we can disagree with the facts. There are certain things that we may not fully understand when we come out, but our intention is never to lie to you, Jonathan. Our job is to make sure that sometimes, and you're in the same boat. I mean, there are times when you guys tweet something out or write a story and you publish a correction. That doesn't mean that you were intentionally trying to deceive readers and the American people, does it? And I think we should be afforded the same opportunity. There are times when we believe something to be true, or we get something from an agency, or we act in haste because the information available wasn't complete, but our desire to communicate with the American people and make sure that you have the most complete story at the time. And so we do it. But again, I think that when you look net, we're going to do our best every time we can. I'm going to come out here and tell you the facts as I know them, and if we make a mistake, I'll do our best to correct it. But I think that it's as I mentioned the other day, it is a two-way street. There are many mistakes that the media makes all the time. They misreport something, they don't report something, they get a fact wrong. I don't think that's always to turn around and say, okay, you were intentionally lying. I think we all go try to do our best job and do it with a degree of integrity that are in our respective industries.
Do you have any corrections that you would like to make or clarifications of what you said
Sure.
on Saturday?
Well, ask away, Jonathan.
Well, just for instance, I don't want to get into relitigate the whole issue, but just take one, the issue of Metro ridership. You made a statement about.
We did,
Metro
and at the time, the information that was provided by the inaugural committee came from an outside agency that we reported on. And I think, knowing what we know now, we can tell that WMATA's numbers are different. But we were trying to provide numbers that we had been provided. That wasn't like we made them up out of thin air.
And do you stand by your statement that was the most watched inaugural address?
Sure, it was the most watched inaugural. When you look at just the one network alone got 16.9 million people online. Another couple of the networks, there were tens of million people that watched that online. Never mind the audience that was here, 31 million people watched it on television. Combine that with the tens of millions of people that watched it online on a device. It's unquestionable. I don't see any numbers that dispute that. When you add up attendance, viewership, total audience in terms of tablets, phones, on television, I'd love to see any information that proves that otherwise.
And then one other.
Do you dispute that?
Well, I don't want to get into numbers.
I do. Okay. Okay. I'm just saying, if you're asking me a question about my integrity, I have a right to say, if you add up the network streaming numbers, Facebook, YouTube, all of the various live streamings that we have information on so far, I don't think there's any question. It was the largest watched inauguration ever.
More than Ronald Reagan's in 1981.
I'm pretty sure that Reagan didn't have YouTube, Facebook, or the internet. Yeah, I think 41 million people watched his. 41 million watched his, okay? So let's just take the Nielsen ratings, which are 31 million, and add it to CNN, 16.9 million. That's a little higher. So I'm just saying, you're asking me for numbers, there's just two entities together.
And the approach that you took on Saturday, any second thoughts on that?
I think, Jonathan, look, I want this to, I came out to read a statement, and I did it. We're here today, I'm going to stay here as long as you want. So I want to make sure that I think you guys might want to leave before I do. But look, I want to make sure that we have a healthy relationship. We saw the other day that, and I'm not trying to rehash history, but you're asking the question, so I'm going to answer it. We had a tweet go out about Martin Luther King. Think about how racially charged that is. And someone rushes out and says to the entire press corps that the President of the United States has removed the bust from his office. Think about what the signal... Hold on, please.
And apologize.
No, he actually applies to, quote, my colleagues. That's the exact quote. Okay? That quote, that report got tweeted out around. And to report, where was the apology to the President of the United States? Where was the apology to millions of people who read that and thought how racially insensitive that was? Where was that apology?
You accepted his apology, though, Sean.
Okay, I'm asking, where was that apology? And so I'm just saying that when things like that happen, when John Lewis says that he's never missed an inauguration. And we find out, actually, he skipped George W. Bush's. That there are points at which we have a right to make sure that we correct the record. I mean, you're talking about integrity, and you're talking about telling the truth and facts. I don't know that it wasn't malicious at all, and I'm not saying, but there's a point at which we have a right to go out there and correct the record. And I think that over and over again, there is this attempt to go after this president and say, well, that can't be true, and that's not right, and the numbers weren't there, and there's a rush to judgment every time. And it's a two-way street. We want to have a healthy and open dialogue with the press corps and with the American people about what he's doing to help this country and to unite it. But at a time when he's trying to unite this, and he keeps talking about uniting this nation, bringing people together, and then a tweet goes out in a pool report to, what, a few thousand people, saying that he removed the bust of Martin Luther King, how do you think that goes over?
Sean, did the media invent the feud between the president and the intelligence community?
Look, I think that you saw from the response the other day, he walked into the CIA, people were hooting and hollering, they gave him a 5-minute standing ovation. That doesn't look like a relationship that's, I mean, they were excited.
Media invention.
No, but I think there's a difference between having differences with intelligence leaders and leaders of that community who had strong differences with, than the people and the men and women who toil every single day in our intelligence community. And it was reflected at the CIA. I mean, they came there, they were so excited. There was 1,000 people that applied for 300 plus seats. We ended up taking in 400 people. That doesn't sound like a huge feud. They were excited, they were clapping, they were cheering when he walked in. And to see reports that made it sound like there was some, fence mending that needed to happen, that sure didn't look that way when you walked in. I'm going to move on. Yeah.
Sean, can I